And we are live again with Siddharth Mehra. It's the Sunday morning live episode. Technically, it's Sunday morning. We are doing it at 1 p.m. Boston time, although it's 11:30 in India. But it's still a Sunday, guys. And this episode has received this segment has received a lot of praise, considering the fact that we have the very own Mehra on the spot, Mr. Mehra. Mr. Mehra the spot and he's smiling. He just posted a Pochettino pic in the group. That's so let's
The,
get
the game is the game, man. The game is the game,
before we get to the agenda of the episode. Let's just quickly get Mr. Mehra on the spot, Siddharth Mehra on the spot. Siddharth Mehra, साहब क्या क्या हाल की हाल चाल सब सब खैरियत
Sab
and
khairiyat, sab
and
khairiyat.
Spurs knocked out.
Yep.
So last night I read that you have been knocked out from two cup competitions.
Hmm.
The bitch, isn't it? Cup
Some
and FA Cup, yeah.
somehow always ends up happening with Spurs. So I've noticed one thing that whenever we have like a bad day and we lose a game, you know, uh, we banter off Spurs and we make fun of Spurs, but they're always there as like the balm to make our injuries go away. They'll always do something. They'll always do something to make the weekend better for us. So Friday sucked for us.
Absolutely.
Yesterday was like a non-event kind of day, but today, man, I mean, this is what happens when you try to build a stadium. It's the harsh reality that's kicking in, that when you have a really good first 11 and then your backup 11
Mhm.
is made up of like a cut rate Giroud, and then you know
Going all
and
out.
yeah,
Yeah.
and guys like Nkudu, like I don't even know if it's Nkudu or the guy. There was a guy before that who had a similar name,
Mm.
and they keep buying these guys from France, thinking that they'll work out. Eric Lamela, who's like the most useless number 11 in the world, his biggest contribution to Spurs has been like that one goal he scored in against United, and one
Mm.
Panenka pass that he did once that he's living off of, for the rest of
But
his career.
yeah,
And that
yeah.
and Juan Foyth, who's been mentally traumatized ever since he got spun by Ramsey in the derby. All right, so yeah, you know. I guess they're going all out to win the Premier League and the Champions League, right? I mean, that's got to be the thing. Like who kind of puts up with these kind of basic bitch cup competitions
Oh
like the
my
League
God.
Cup and the
Oh
FA
my
Cup,
God.
when you have
All
like bigger priorities like the Premier League and the Champions League to focus on. So
if
love you,
Vicky
Spurs.
question
Can't live without you.
if Vicky question were here and he would ask he you would ask him, how's the Josh? Hi sir. Spurs knocked out Crystal Palace.
Yep.
I think Trippier missed that penalty, and that was really their chance to get in the game. Although I think Palace deserved the lead at halftime. So Spurs are knocked out. Arsenal are knocked out. We are going to get to that as well. But Higuain makes his debut, by the way. The game's begun at Stamford Bridge. Higuain gets his full debut. I think Hudson Odoi also starts. So should it be a routine win for Chelsea there?
I think so. I mean, they just have enough quality. Even if Higuain was not starting, I think you would, you'd bet on Chelsea winning this easily. I mean, maybe it's I don't want to curse, I don't want it to be the commentator's curse or anything, but
Hmm.
I've always been a fan of Higuain right from the time that. Actually, I've been tracking him for a while, so this will
Hmm.
let you know how old I am. I had been. There was a time when you could only get like rumors from like the Guardian's rumor mill post and
Yep.
Football
Yep.
365's
Okay.
gossip page, and there was like talks of Higuain when he was in Argentina. Somebody I remember called him Didier Drogba with a better first touch. So when he eventually moved to Madrid, I was kind of expecting that, but he turned out to be completely different. And then of course, as Arsenal fans, we were all kind of expecting him to sign for us. And then that transfer didn't happen. It was almost on the verge of being completed, but it
Yeah.
didn't happen. And then we ended up getting Ozil uh,
Ah.
that summer.
Hmm.
So always been a fan of Higuain. I mean, I just think that he may not be the right fit for Chelsea, but he seems to be the right fit for Sarri. So I hope he does well. Not against us. I guess they're not playing us anymore, but let's see how it goes. It's always good to see uh, uh, a really good striker come into the Premier League, and it'll be interesting to watch him.
So Morata is out. Morata is on his way to Atletico, and
Yep.
they selling him for a loss. But I think that should still be a fair deal for them, considering the fact that he was not going to do any good here, better here. So I think that's a win-win for Chelsea if you have to consider. But anyway, let's
Yep.
before we get down to anything, let's just go focus on the name of the episode, which is Arsenal are knocked out of the FA Cup.
Yep.
And for Friday night game, United on coming to the Emirates on the back of 7 straight wins, 6 in the Premier League, 1 in the FA Cup. And Solskjaer's team kind of had the momentum coming here also. Also, that we've just beaten them a couple of times in the past few seasons. One in the 2015-16 and the one in the FA Cup was, I think, the Danny Welbeck winner. So,
Right.
so Solskjaer's team had the momentum. They also had Sanchez returning. So it was all us in the script. Sanchez coming back to the Emirates, scoring. What did you make of the game?
Yeah, I somewhat expected this. So if you remember the first episode that we did with Ananya, I said that I don't know if he'll make it past United in the cup. And there's a couple of reasons for that. I think we right now, and we'll address this as far as the injuries are concerned. I don't think we have the squad in terms of fitness and numbers to be able to compete for top 4 Europa and FA Cup. So while it sucks to get knocked out of the FA Cup, a competition that we've won more than anybody else, I'll make my peace with it. I was pissed off that we lost, and the manner in which we lost it was a classic Wenger era performance. Where they let us have the ball, and then we had a lot of sterile possession, and then they hit us on the counter very easily. I think I'm impressed with what Solskjaer has done. I initially expected that he would come in and he would benefit from new manager bounce, and the fact that a lot of the blame during Mourinho's time was being placed on the players. So the players had a point to prove. Guys like Pogba and Rashford, and Rashford was having a decent season. Martial and Lukaku. People were saying he plays with with jeans and Timberlands on and stuff like that. So, I've always been maintained that he's a pretty good striker, just given his goal record. He may not be elite, but he's just a level below. So what Solskjaer did was very impressive. He actually came out with a very good plan. He played Lukaku on the right against Kolasinac, the position that he plays for Belgium very successfully. He didn't allow Kolasinac to get forward as much. I mean, he did in the second half, but there was Lukaku came out and said after the game that we knew there would be space behind the fullbacks, and we wanted to exploit that, and that they did that really, really well. I think Sanchez, apart from that goal, was a little peripheral in the game. I mean, he made one out to in run. His and Jesse Lingard's movement kind of caused problems for us. But losing your first choice centre back pairing will completely mess up the game. I don't think we played horribly. I will give you that much. We should have had a second goal. Sergio Romero just pulls out saves from nowhere. He looks like an accident waiting to happen, but somehow ends up making saves. He reminds me of Ospina a lot. So I think we got outdone by with Solskjaer's tactics. Solskjaer also mentioned that he had shown videos of games at the Emirates during the Ferguson era. I remember a lot of counter attacks. Take your pick: Rooney, Ronaldo, Park. All these guys have intercepted the ball from us in midfield and have scored those goals.
Absolutely.
Scored goals against us at the Emirates, in the early Emirates era. And
precisely the 2009-10 season, that in January, that same period around there.
If you've read Alex Ferguson's book Leading, he actually has he's written about that in that book, that he figured out that late era Wenger teams, or actually Emirates era Wenger teams, that you had, if you were able to intercept the ball,
Hmm.
not tackle,
Hmm.
intercept the ball, you were very likely to score, given the number of people that we like to commit forward. So I think Solskjaer kind of used that, which means he's done his research, he's done his homework. I also think he's benefiting a lot from having Mike Phelan as his assistant coach. Um,
Absolutely.
yeah, and that's worked out very well for him. So fair play to United. They did what they always do. They're always up for a game against us, and they came and they were worthy winners. I will say, though, people gassed up Pogba in that game a lot. Honestly thought that, apart from that shot he took against Czech, he didn't do much. I think there's a tendency to view people a little favorably. I probably get a bunch of heat on this from my United friends, but I thought Matic and Herrera actually did much better than him.
And here's a question for you on live chat, by the way.
Yeah.
Uh, Aryan's asked, do you think Emery needs to work on how his players press? Players often get caught on the counter.
Yes, I think they do. I mean, it's just we've had Jekyll and Hyde performances, right? So if you see the first half against Chelsea, we pressed really, really well. It was probably the best first half performance that we've had. So obviously he's trying to communicate his ideas to the team. Sometimes it works out, sometimes it doesn't. I also think that Emery is more of a tactician than we thought, right? So he is trying to change his formation for against every opponent. He's trying to come up with like a custom plan for every team that he faces, and I think it will be a while before the players can kind of like slide in and out of those changes or adapt to those changes every week. It may not end up working for him. Some players don't like that. Some players like playing within like a specific philosophy, and that works better for them. Uh, but I think you've seen good pressing this season, and you've seen some lackadaisical pressing this season. So give him this season, and then we'll see if he can kind of do that, get the players to do that more consistently.
And the players remind me, we were pretty much not, we are not at our worst, but Socrates injury and then Koscielny leaving, two forced subs, and that to our back four, like losing your back, the three at the back in just two games. Bellerin's gone, so Koscielny might have a fractured jaw. I think the reports that are coming out, Socrates is out till Feb end. Monreal has his issues with fitness. Kolasinac is doing pretty well, I must say, but he's still exposed on the defensive part.
Hmm.
Uh, then you have Mustafi, who has no clue what he's doing. So he's kind of screwed right now, isn't it? And with just 4 days to go in the transfer window, with Perisic linked and Denis Suarez link off, and I heard Nainggolan links as well, but I don't consider them. But Perisic links are coming up, and I just read just 10 minutes back that Perisic loan deal turned down. Now Perisic has asked for a transfer. He's
Yep.
asked for a transfer. So the injury crisis have deepened for Arsenal. And how do you see Emery address this? I mean, we have a makeshift. We might have a makeshift defense of El Neni and Zaki and Mustafi at the back. Who do you see Emery starting at Cardiff?
Yeah, I mean, I honestly thought against Cardiff we'll be forced to start Mustafi and Litzsteiner, which is not.
Inevitable.
Then somebody reminded me that we have a kid called Mavropanos who's still around, and he's
Yep, yep, yep.
probably back to fitness. If there was any game that you wanted Mavropanos to start, it would be against Cardiff at home, right? I mean, you might as well use him there as opposed to kind of throwing him into the deep end at City. I think we need a centre back now, whether it's a loan or even a buy option. That's more important than anything else. I mean, we've lost Socrates till I would say at least March, right? There's talk of him being back sooner than that, but realistically, I think February is done for him.
Absolutely.
Yeah, Koscielny may or may not have a broken jaw. I read the injury report. It said that there's some
Yeah.
soft tissue with damage and bruising around the jaw. So, but I guess until apparently, like what we've always been told is like until swelling comes down, you don't know whether it's broken or not or something like that.
Yeah.
And I mean, at this point, I think even Gary Cahill makes up numbers.
Oh
So
yeah, yeah.
yeah, and people might think he's finished and stuff, but he knows the league, and if he's a short-term fix, then I guess I'm okay with it. I don't see us signing any big name center back in this window. I don't see us signing some guy with potential on loan at center back at least, because I just don't see that working out. We need a big time fix as far as defense is concerned, and it's not going to happen with mediocre players from La Liga and stuff.
And the
Might
fact
as well
that,
get
yeah, yeah,
yeah.
correct. And the fact, so, sorry to interrupt, but and the fact that Mustafi came for 35,
Yeah.
some of the signings, some of the amounts of the transfers have been through the roof, like 35 for Mustafi, and um, I still don't get it. And some of the deals, like we've discussed in the previous episodes, as to how
Yeah.
our finances, how we are in trouble with the finances. But it's good you pointed out Gary Cahill. At least
Mm.
a defender is linked, and that's the one we need right now. We need a defender more than anything. But here's one question in the chat. Hari's asked
Mm.
you. It's been over 10 years since the completion of the Emirates project. How much longer is it going to take before Arsenal get to actually strengthen their squad the way City and United do?
So there's those are two very extreme comparisons, right? Your City on one side have the kind of money that they have backed by their owners, and they've been able to kind of inject a lot of money into the club, which is essentially kind of debt free. They have, whether you like it or not, they have certain sponsorship deals that allowed them to get where they are right now. They're doing very well from a commercial standpoint. They have like some really good commercial partners, but initially that Etihad deal shirt sponsorship was essentially money being injected into the club, and which is one of the reasons they got into FFP issues, is because the UEFA didn't take the entire value of that deal into consideration. They took what they consider a reasonable amount. So
Absolutely.
that's one extreme. On the other end, you have Manchester United, who love or hate Ed Woodward. He is probably the best chief executive when it comes to getting commercial deals in place. I mean, they've just been able to go from strength to strength to strength just on the basis of the size of the fan base to generate the amount of commercial income they're doing right now. So United are kind of our City, but from a commercial deal standpoint, and they just keep adding to it and building upon it. The United fan base is not going to reduce; it's only going to keep going up and up and up. Because they are what they are. They've just had so much success over the last 20 years or so. It's not something that can be ignored. I think Arsenal had put all the eggs in the basket, thinking that there wouldn't be a Chelsea, there wouldn't be a City that would come in, there would be a duopoly of Manchester United and Arsenal like there was in the 90s and early 2000s, and they're still paying the price for that. I think we're out of the Emirates era. I think we have our squad is not pathetic. I mean, it's disbalanced. I think you said 35 million for Mustafi. I think Mustafi at best is probably an 18 to 20 million defender. Is what we paid for him. We waited too long. We dilly dallied like we usually do with these transfers, and panicked and then paid 35 million for him. He has not been awful. Look, if you look at his stats from last season, his radar, and everybody likes to point this out, has actually been pretty good. And the only thing is he makes a lot of errors, like errors leading to goals and stuff. And he has a tendency to kind of to go to ground when he doesn't need to. So if you see a lot of the times when he's responsible for goals, he'll slide in, or he'll go to ground before he needs to. And I think his time at Arsenal is kind of done. I don't think he can come back from this. It would take like a Herculean effort for Mustafi to redeem himself at Arsenal. He'll probably be sold in the summer, and he'll probably do okay wherever he goes. But obviously some of these signings haven't worked out for us the way we thought we would have. But I think that the money's been there to invest in the squad. We just haven't done a good job of profiling the right kind of players. And whether that's a
True that.
combination of stat DNA or our scouting or Arsene not making a decision on a player for 3 years. Apparently, there was talk that we scouted Lacazette, and then he kept
Yeah.
waiting and waiting and waiting. He scored 30 goals 3 seasons in a row, and then we signed him.
Absolutely,
So
absolutely. And we wasted Ozil's peak there,
yeah,
and someone like Lacazette would have been a completely different story. And
yeah.
Supratik sent a compliment for you. Love your Under Armour cap. So
Yeah,
Supratim joins us next Sunday with Supratim and I and my friend Shlomo. All the three of us started the Panen Kavyu. So the two of us do even. So that's the crisis situation, and that takes me to the transfer buzz. Well, Ivan Perisic, a
mm,
winger. United were after him. Jose wanted him, is what the rumors were last season. And then the deal kind of didn't go through. Now he's linked to us. And if you remember Emery coming out and saying that we can't sign permanent players, so we are going to go for loan deals. It's a 3 million loan deal with 7 million salary a year and then an option to buy in the summer. Also, Gary Cahill being linked now. Um, do you think we are signing at least one before the window ends?
yeah. I think we will. I mean, I'd be very surprised if we don't sign at least a player. See, the Perisic link is good if it's a loan, right? So if it's a loan, I don't think you can do better than that in terms of like in terms of a quality winger. He can play left wing, he can play right wing. He is better than you think because a lot of people don't watch Serie A with regularity. He was really good at the World Cup, but and he has that ability to take people on 1v1. But I'd like to see how Emery adapts to his playing style, because he's a lot more like a traditional winger versus like a Mkhitaryan or Iwobi.
Yeah,
And I think strikers need that. I think Aubameyang especially needs that. Look at the amount of look at the amount of chances that a Kolasinac is creating, just by kind of bombing down the wing, and the number of assists he has this season. Just by putting in quality crosses for our strikers. Now imagine if you had a Perisic and a Kolasinac on the left wing. That would be really, really, really tough to handle for any opponent. So I'd be very happy if we got Perisic as a loan signing with an option to buy. I don't think we should be spending. We should be signing up for something like a 35 million or a 45 million euro permanent transfer for him, or an obligation to buy in the summer. I think
yeah,
that would just add to our collection of 29, 30-year-olds, which with no resale value.
absolutely.
And I think he would be a better honestly could be a better option. He's a more of a known quantity than Dennis Suarez. Dennis Suarez, on the other hand, if we look at him, I would be okay with an option to buy, because there is potential to resell him on if he doesn't work out here for a couple of years. So I expect at least one signing, probably two. But there's some people who are saying like we want to sign both Dennis Suarez and Malcolm. I don't think that's going to happen. We probably get like
True that.
and
True that. Yeah. Yeah, so we have to. We really are, in that position where clearly three of the four regular back four have gone, and I think Koscielny, even though it's not a fractured jaw, but still, how many games can Koscielny start one after the other? And with Mavropanos back, I think Mavropanos should get a start, but
Hmm.
on the Iwobi thing, do you think Iwobi is back to square one again? Like running circles and the end product doesn't come from him. Like he might be pretty good on the ball, taking it near the box and then just runs around circles. The final end product isn't there from him.
See, I think Iwobi is again another player that polarizes our fans, right? I mean, nobody in the team right now has the 1v1 ability that he has, which is why you if he had the same 1v1 ability on the other side, we would be a much tougher team to play against.
Hmm.
I think his decision making is what lets him down. If you see the goal that Oba scored, it was Iwobi's movement that that set Ramsey free. Ramsey did
Ramsey, yeah, correct.
put
Ramsey.
that ball in, but all that build up was Iwobi. Iwobi was like he kept Ashley Young pushed back. And Ashley Young's done well against some of the better players in the league, right?
Hmm.
Even though we like making fun of him, the bird shat in his mouth and stuff, and he can't spell. He was trying to banter off our fans, and then he made like 6 grammatical mistakes in like a 5-word sentence or something like that. So but he's done well, and Iwobi gave him a torrid time, and our entire um, attacking momentum went out of the window when we took him off. So he gets abused when he doesn't make the right decision. He holds on to the ball a little too long, but he has the ability to be dangerous. He's done well for us in a lot of games. I think he will only get better. He's only 22. Remember that, and we can't expect him to play at the level. Now, keep in mind he's also coming off of a couple of seasons playing for Arsenal, who was at towards the end of his career at Arsenal, very good at breaking kids through, identifying kids who can make it to the first team, but then not coaching them well enough to be successful in the first team beyond the first couple of months. So
Yeah.
I'm bullish on Iwobi. I think he's unfairly maligned at times because he gets into such good situations where you should be passing or scoring, and then he doesn't take that last step. I think that last step can be coached. I would be patient.
So that's a pretty neat way to put it. Well, there's a question here saying that Solskjaer has done pretty well, 8 out of 8. Do you think it's the honeymoon period for him, and do you think United stick to him for long term?
See, a couple of things. All right. So I thought about this. I think he's done really well. I think he's done really well because there is no pressure on him, and the players have a point to prove. Right. So, he has helped in shoring up the defense. I mean, Lindelof is playing really well. Bailly is the sort of player that you think is good, can be really good, but then he's kind of, he's somewhat like Mustafi when it comes to like doing something stupid or giving up an error that leads to a goal. So he's done a good job kind of corralling the defense. But I think a lot of the attacking momentum is to do with the players, getting them to move the ball faster and them having a point to prove. I don't know how well he would do if you give him the permanent job. Say they make top 4 or say they win the FA Cup, and on the basis of that he gets the top job. Yes, he knows the club. Yes, he's he loves the players, he loves the club, but once what are the realistic expectations from a Solskjaer next season if he gets the permanent job? Is it top 4? Is it to win the league? I think personally, I think he may struggle to do that. I think he may end up going the Di Matteo way. If that happens, I don't think that's a risk that United can take at this point. So what they get from this season, but you have to move to an elite coach in the next season. And who are Solskjaer's transfer targets? I mean, realistically, think about it. If you're going to go after a Gareth Bale, will a Gareth Bale want to come and play for Solskjaer? So stuff like that needs to be considered as well. So while he's doing a great job and he's impressing in terms of the permanent role, I personally don't think it would be the right move. I think they probably need someone who can attract talent as well as coach players better than Ole does.
Better. And just to update you that Chelsea have gone ahead. Williams converted the penalty, and there was Hutchinson's late challenge on Aspilicueta. So Willian has sent the goalkeeper the wrong way. So Chelsea lead at the bridge, and as they are on their way to a win. Well, that was Ole Gunnar Solskjaer and Man United. As you said, a pretty neat answer again. Also, before we go on to another topic, which is Thierry Henry sacking, let's just finish off. Ozil came on towards the end of the game, and as you said, when Iwobi was off, our momentum kind of took us. It was shaken off, and Ozil came on. He's been getting a lot of stick for from the fans. Fortnite knew when 350 million K. No wonder you were thrown out of the German league. Well, those extremist kind of people. But did Ozil do more in the last 10 minutes, or was he just kind of impressive in the first few minutes and then just went back to being Ozil again? How was it?
I, I think the situation also did help him. I mean, with Ozil, you're essentially giving up an advantage behind Ozil, right? So, if you see on the third goal, I think Guendouzi was telling him that he should have been tracking back at some point. If you go back and look at the video of the third goal, I mean, I don't know how Guendouzi has the balls to say that when usually he's the one who's jogging back and letting people run past him. So, when you bring Ozil on, you always, your upside is that he may, kind of produce a magical pass for you to get a goal or score himself. But the flip side is that you will not get that tracking back from Ozil that you will get from other players. So I think we kind of saw the latter. The problem I'm seeing with Ozil here is that Ozil, for everything that people say negative about him, is one of the best players at doing the unexpected. Kevin, if you look at a Kevin De Bruyne, the guy's a machine. He does 5 out of 5 things really well. But everything he does is predictable. Ozil will make a pass that you least expected, and it comes off. I think he's kind of restraining himself from doing that right now when he's coming on as a sub. It's just not. He doesn't have the courage, to kind of play the outrageous pass or make an outrageous attempt, because I think he's mentally kind of thinking that what if it doesn't come off, then again I look bad, or I'm kind of justifying Emery keeping me on the bench. So he's playing safe, and the safe Ozil is not the player you want in a game. You want the Ozil who's mercurial, who can kind of make something out of nothing. So that's what I feel Ozil is at right now. I don't think that's good for us, especially with some of the smaller teams. I think we will need him, and I think really needs to figure that out. As I've said before, we may want to move him on, and I respect the club and Emery's decision and Raul's decision if they want to do that. But as long as he's here, you have to find a way to integrate him.
And should Ozil have started the game according to you?
On the basis of the Chelsea game, probably not. I don't think so. I mean, I think he should start the Cardiff game, but I think it would have been too much of a risk to start Ozil against United, given the fact that we did such a good job against Chelsea.
Yeah, so pretty much all about Arsenal versus United, and pretty much that's all. United progress 2-0, 3-1 winners, rightly predicted by Vedang in our previous episode. And just a heads up, Chelsea are 1-0 up, heading towards the next round. Also, Spurs have been knocked out. For the viewers tuning in right now, Arsenal versus United is done. We've discussed almost everything, and let's go on now to, obviously, because Liverpool are not in the FA Cup, and since this is the FA Cup weekend, let's go on to one of our ex-Gunners who was sacked as the Monaco coach, suspended before, and then announced that the Monaco announced that he was gone. He is going. Leonardo Jardim is back. So kind of a disaster at Monaco, who also lost to Dion. It was a 6-pointer in the relegation battle last night. So they lost that game. Guingamp, on the other hand, lost as well. So that keeps Monaco second last. What are your comments on Monaco's management, like the decisions? Sacking Jardim, then bringing in Henry, which with the team clearly in turmoil, and then sacking him 3 months later. Could they have stuck to Jardim and ensured that at least he would have got them in a better position by now?
That's very tough to say. See, a couple of things here. One is Monaco in itself, I guess. I think Jardim should have left Monaco the season that that season that they had with Mbappe and Bernardo Silva, and the one where they made it to they went far in the Champions League and beat City and everything with Bakayoko and Fabinho and stuff. and won the title. So I think they peaked there. It's very tough to replicate a crop of talent like that when you've had such a good season and then loaned or sold off your those players at huge sums. So I don't think Jardim did himself a favor. He stayed in his comfort zone. He didn't move on. He should have moved on. And I think they tried to kind of replicate the model that's been very successful for them by like this emerging talent and then try to sell them off at huge prices. That doesn't always work. Like even Dortmund have seen bad times, using that model. So from a Monaco perspective, I think it was. I think they should have stuck with Jardim to at least keep them out of the relegation places. Hiring Henry was a moonshot. I mean, thinking that a guy who's been an assistant coach at Belgium and is good enough to take on a job and coach youth and make sure that and he was using like old methods where he was like trying to instill fear in the players. That wasn't going to work out. I think there's something to be said about working your way up. Everybody's not a Zidane. Everybody's not a Guardiola. Even those guys worked with youth programs first before becoming the coaches that they are. And I think Henry kind of thought that he could do the job. He walked into a shit show, and he thought he could fix that, and he could not. I mean, none of the core issues got fixed, right? I mean, they sacked Michael Emenalo, who wasn't able to kind of salvage the situation there as well. I know he gets a lot of abuse from Chelsea fans, but I thought he's done quite well. Emenalo's track record at Chelsea is actually pretty good if you look at the trophy haul. But clearly he's someone who's difficult to work with. So I think Henry himself didn't do himself any favors going into Monaco thinking that it's my old club. They respect me here. I can probably kind of succeed on reputation alone. And as we know, that doesn't work anymore. You need solid coaching foundations to be able to do that. And which is why guys like Gerrard and Lampard, I believe, and Patrick Vieira, even for that matter, are taking the right route to success versus Henry. And I think this is humbling for Henry. He needed that. And I think he needs to learn from this and go back to becoming a better coach before he tries to manage another club.
Absolutely, and that's the key point here being that Guardiola, Zidane, the other coaches took the grassroots level job, the B team jobs first, understood what they were getting into, and then went for the top job. And we know they've succeeded. So the the Inter, by the way, are trailing to Torino, and Perisic is not in the squad, as I see.
Yep.
So that's something to look out to with 4 days to go in the transfer market that is ending. Well, anything else that we are missing out in the FA Cup? I think we've discussed everything. Also,
I think on AFC Wimbledon beat West Ham, which is like a magic of the cup story for you. But that's pretty embarrassing actually. If AFC Wimbledon's beating you 3-0, that's West Ham are also having a seesaw kind of season. They've been linked with signing this kid Maxi Gomez, who's supposed to be like the next big thing. I mean, if they can pull that off, I mean, I would be seriously impressed with their with the audacity that they have to try and go about doing things. So I think that was a pretty big story over the weekend. I would like to say one thing about our transfer. Window. So Perisic has obviously put in a transfer request, which is why he's out of the squad. Look at our luck. The one time we tried to sign a player from Inter, the guy who's negotiating for Inter is the guy who used to run Juventus, Beppe Marotta, right? And that guy is a complete. He will not let anything go. He will get value for money out of you before he gives anything up. Juventus, for my money, have been the shrewdest acquirer of players over the last 5 or 10 years, and they've done the best free transfer business that anyone has ever done. And our luck that one time we tried to sign a guy from Inter, you have Marotta sitting across the table from you who will not budge an inch. and give you what you want. So I mean, it is what it is. That's the life. That's why we are Arsenal fans, right? No transfer happens easily. It all comes down to the
Absolutely.
wire.
And it's not getting better for us. But that's about it from the review. Well, let's just quickly preview some of the games. We have a midweek game week this time around, and Arsenal are facing Cardiff. Man United have Burnley. City travel away to Newcastle. There's then
Mhm.
the last day of Jan, when the January transfer window ends. You have Bournemouth and Chelsea at Chelsea are away to Bournemouth. Liverpool face Leicester. That's one game to look out to, and Tottenham face Watford, who are Tottenham are in the injury crisis of their own. So let's start off with Arsenal versus Cardiff. Arsenal versus Cardiff. Who lines up in defense for you? Uh,
Honestly, I have no idea. I have absolutely no idea. I would hope it's Mustafi and Mavropanos who are center backs by profession. Uh, Clearly that would be the least damaging thing to do. I think we should beat Cardiff no matter who lines up in defense. I think they're pretty awful, and there's but obviously they will give us a game. Neil Warnock always manages to motivate his sides to at least put in all they can. But at home against Cardiff, you should be winning that. You should, our strikers should be stat padding goals in games like that. So you would think that it would be a 2-0, 3-0, maybe 3-1 win or 4-1 win. But watch us kind of trying to break them down in the 75th minute without any goal scored or trailing or something like that. You really don't know what you're going to get. But logically, we should easily win that game. Right?
So Man United have host Burnley at Old Trafford, 8-8 for Ole, 6-6 in the league, and 2-2 in the FA Cup. Routine win for Ole and his men.
You would like to think so, right? I mean, with the form that Pogba is in, and a couple of other players are in, Rashford is in, you would think that they should be able to break down Burnley, who I think will just sit and allow United to attack them. I don't really see any surprises here. I'd be very very shocked if Burnley can get anything out of this game. They just got destroyed by City in the FA Cup as well, so no expectations there.
Absolutely. And then Man City travel to Newcastle. And if you've seen Man City after that win against Liverpool, they smell blood. And Liverpool's 7 point gap reduced to four. Well, City have gone on a spree from there. And Newcastle are not in a good run of form, is it? And with their backroom, their management issues as well, should this also be a routine win for City, or can Newcastle do some shock us, or will it be a routine win for City?
See, with Rafa Benitez has the ability to beat anyone on his day, right? Whether it's City or Chelsea or Spurs. But I feel Rafa is also, very conservative coach. I don't think he'll come out and attack City, especially after the form that they've been in the past few games. I think what's important for City is the fact that Gabriel Jesus has started finding the back of the net, right?
Yeah.
I mean, they were very heavily reliant on Aguero for a while, and Jesus's bad form kind of coincided with that little dip that they had.
Absolutely.
De Bruyne is back; he's doing bits. I think this will be pretty ugly to watch if you're a Newcastle fan.
By the way, sorry to interrupt you again. And here's Anish Datta again with a post. United fans really depressed tonight. Pochettino crashing out of another competition, completely against their narrative. But then it's just one competition, not like he has won zero trophies as a manager like Sari, whom they mock, or zero trophies in England like Klopp, whom they mock. Oh wait.
Yeah,
you want to check that out. Yeah, that's classic.
Yeah.
well, then let's go to Bournemouth versus Chelsea.
Yep.
Where Chelsea are on the back of defeat to Arsenal, and obviously their FA Cup game right now seems that they will go on to win that. But Bournemouth versus Chelsea should be a tough game for Chelsea, and it should be a good test for Higuain as well. And Higuain and Hazard might start. He will start that together.
So
Yeah.
is that a way? That's a way to
Yeah,
Bournemouth.
that's away. That's away. Bournemouth home.
Yeah,
It's Bournemouth away game for Chelsea.
yeah. I think that might be an interesting one. If there's any Bournemouth are tough to play at home. I really like Callum Wilson. Callum
Absolutely.
Wilson. I don't think he's worth 75 million though. Like that was a number that was being put out that people were ready to pay for him. That is just patently absurd. If anyone ends up paying that kind of money for Callum Wilson, good finisher, but he's basically saying that he's better than you're paying an English premium over what you paid for somebody like Obama. And really, that would just be dumb. So I think Bournemouth have the ability to make life tough for life tough for Chelsea, but good opportunity for Higuain to prove that he is the elite poacher that he's been in Serie A.
And Liverpool are again up against Leicester at Anfield.
Yeah.
Well, this is the first time in so many years that they've led the league that way. And let's not go back to 2014, 2013, 14. But yeah, they have led the league for so long. They are on the back of a 1-0 win over Brighton and a 4-3 that the Christian, almost a Christian. What changes do you think Klopp might make in this game, considering the fact that Milner was sent off and that Trent Alexander-Arnold was on the bench, or was he injured? Yeah, I think he was injured. Trent
Yeah,
was injured. Yeah, Trent was injured. Correct.
I I
Yeah.
I think he'll come up with a solution. I think Klopp's at a point now where he's able to kind of bring players in and out of the team, and they're able to adapt to his system, right? And that's largely that kind of coaching has fueled the winning runs of teams like Tottenham and Man City. That the system is bigger than the player. And I think Klopp has kind of adjusted to that this year as well, which is why you don't have Lovren making the fuck ups that he usually used to do. They're all kind of subservient to the system. So I don't even think it matters who he brings in those two positions. I think it's an easy win for them as well. Leicester have been just so inconsistent this season, and the collapses that they've had are pretty spectacular. So I don't think they'll pose much of a threat to Liverpool.
Well, here's a question.
Yeah.
From Liverpool's midfield of Wijnaldum, Milner, or Henderson, or Keita, Firmino, and the third one would be again who's the one? Keita, Firmino, Keita, Fabinho, and Shaqiri.
I would say their ideal midfield should be Fabinho, Keita, and Wijnaldum. That's an impressive midfield right there. Like I know Naby Keita, everybody makes fun of him. I've also bantered him off quite a bit. But I don't think he's been played in his right position. He also needs time to adapt. Obviously, if you spend 60 million plus or 50 million plus on a player, expect him to hit the ground running a bit. I think Fabinho's come on leaps and bounds. He had a torrid first few games. But that midfield is threatening to anybody in the league, right? You don't want to come up against that midfield. It's they can hurt you in multiple different ways. And I think we are yet to see the best of Naby Keita, in the league. I think a lot of people just use including myself, the opportunity to banter off anybody who doesn't start performing like Salah on day one. And even then people banter him off, but I think that should be their ideal midfield going forward.
Well, Liverpool versus Leicester, and then there's a question on live chat. Do you see Higuain shining in the Premier League?
Undecided on that. His age profile and his goal record, his declining goal record indicate that he may not be a good fit. But I want to wait before I call that one. He's just been such a good goal scorer. Maybe all he needs is a change of scene to kind of give him that that burst of energy or motivation that he requires. But just the way his record has gone after his time at Juventus, or I have my reservations.
Okay,
Yeah.
so Tottenham have Watford, and considering the fact that they are on the back of a defeat in the FA Cup, and it's not going good for them. Although they got the Harry Winks winner in injury time last week against Fulham, but this is all together a different. And Watford are
English Danielson. English Danielson. Even Danielson was better than him. So I will he made 2 games where he made sideways passes
yeah.
against I think Madrid and stuff. He's been hyped up to a classic English media thing. He's done nothing. He has done nothing to justify the hype. It's completely unwarranted, and people are treating him as like the second coming of Perlo or something like that. It's he has a lot to prove before he can even be
second
even
second coming of second coming of Perlo. I'm sorry to interrupt you. Is this something in the group that's going on? I've missed. I think I've missed something.
No, the media. So
Oh,
there
media,
are
media.
articles and stuff about him. I mean, it's insane. I mean, first he needs to get close to shining Jaka's shoes, and then once he's achieved that, then maybe we can start talking about what kind of player he is and stuff. But this is just it's absurd.
But that's the isn't it another fun episode here, and it's becoming a brand now. I hope you're spreading the link in Boston as well, and I hope it there as well, because they're liking it here and they are sending me messages. Of the list I prepared was on the terms of all the teams and stuff. But here's a sad situation, sad news that's been doing the rounds in the press, and we saw Emiliano Sala's flight go missing, and his record signing for Cardiff, who might have played against us, by the way, the first game. So how did this whole situation take place? Like, can you construct right from the start, like his journey? Then he felt that there was something wrong in it, and then something like. So how did it go about?
So there's some conflicting reports. Like, first of all, it's horrific, right? I mean, this guy's like secured his dream move to the Premier League,
Yeah.
and it's been signed for a pretty big amount. And the I think you went off camera for a bit.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
and he was signed for a pretty big amount, so it's a pretty big risk that Cardiff had taken. But I guess all that pales in front of what's happened to him in the pilot. What I failed to. So first, it was said that that Cardiff was the one that the Cardiff folks chartered the plane, and then there was a lot of heat on them for why did you kind of put him in a plane that has known issues and stuff like that. But then reports came out that he was the one who chartered the plane, and he decided that he would come there on his own terms and stuff. So either ways, it was a pretty huge risk. I mean, that's like that kind of a plane for that kind of a player. I mean, the amount of Cardiff should not have let him fly on his own, but you can't really stop a person from doing that. And it's really sad. I mean, I know he sent WhatsApp messages to folks saying that he doesn't feel good about the status of the plane and what's going on, and I'll see if I make it and stuff like that. So it's terrible news. Personally, I don't have a lot of insight into what kind of player he was. I know that he played for Nantes and stuff, and a lot of the guys who have come from Liga, knew him. I know Lacazette knew him, and it's terribly sad. It's terribly sad. It puts a lot of everything into perspective. This guy probably had a good 4, 5, 6 years left in him, and there's the pretty high likelihood that won't get to see him ever again. So I don't care whose fault it was or anything. It's just like an unspeakable tragedy, and
Absolutely.
I hope we don't have to like discuss things like this in the future.
Correct. And the fact that there's a fundraiser that is being going on for the private fund that have been raised. We saw you donating 25,000 euros, and the other N'Golo Kante coming up with looking to donate entire amount to fund his search.
So apparently that's not accurate, by the way. So I saw on Twitter a journalist pointed out that N'Golo Kante thing was just a rumor and it's not substantiated by anyone. So not sure, but yeah, obviously I'm sure some of the folks who knew him and the footballers who knew him will do their best to try and keep that search going for as long as they can. I mean, there's a very remote possibility that he and the pilot are still alive, given the weather and the chances of you making it out of the plane into a lifeboat that just rarely happens. So I know it's a bit gloomy, a bit of a gloomy discussion, but I mean, props to folks for trying to at least help.
Absolutely. And I hope, like you said, we don't have to speak about such an incident in the future. Well,
Yeah,
before we just wind up, the
yeah.
Marcelo Bielsa Spygate thing comes to my mind, and we haven't spoken about that because I think it was between the midweek that came up. Marcelo Bielsa Spygate controversy. You told me you've read a lot on that. You followed it on Twitter. Well, enlighten us, sir. Enlighten us.
I mean, this is classic Bielsa. I mean, this is what he does. We are kind of unlucky that we went 6 months without there being like a Bielsa-ish in Bielsa-esque incident occurring, right?
Hmm.
So first of all, what he did was not illegal, right? It's unethical. People don't do it, but you can do it. It's just another form of scouting your opponent. And he had the thing he did where he called the press conference and people thought he was going to resign. Then he stands up and then provides like a PowerPoint presentation on
Absolutely. Yeah,
the
300 hours of study, by the way. Yeah.
yeah, and all clubs do that, by the way. Even in the championship, it's not something new, but he just used that to make a mockery out of the kind of stuff people were saying. So the fact is that he came out and owned up to it. He didn't think it was a big deal. I mean, the guy is special, really. I mean, and I don't mean that in like that he's like he has mental issues or something, but they call him El Loco, right? So he is uh, Pep, Pochettino, these guys have all based their fundamental pressing philosophies on the work that Bielsa has done. And Bielsa, because he's so eccentric, doesn't can't really sustain his spells at clubs because he ends up doing something or the other to piss people off. But he's an absolute legend in my book. I mean, the guy is. I saw a video of him recently where he met Zidane after a game and he told Zidane to come and watch his training, and so that he could teach him about how to train players. And Zidane being Zidane, like very suavely laughed it off and stuff. But who does that? I mean, and it's not because he's. Bielsa has a point to prove that I'm this great coach or this great thinker. He just genuinely loves the game. He just genuinely loves coaching. He's passionate about about the game and his philosophy that he wants to spread it to everybody. And I'm a big fan of that. I mean, like he's one of the few pure footballing characters left in the game that for whom the game isn't about furthering his career or furthering his reputation as a manager. He's like one of the last true philosophers in the game, and I have all the time in the world for that.
Absolutely. And I hope we get to see him in the Premier League next season, which
I
is
hope so too. Leeds deserve to be back in the league. I mean, Leeds are a huge club. They've just made some bad decisions in the early 2000s that saw them go down the way they did. But I would like to see Leeds back in the league. I think they'll be a credit to the league. They have really good fans too, and I hope he can get them promoted.
ended our title run in the 2003 season, by the way. Yeah.
It is what it is, man. I mean,
So pretty much a very decent episode, like we've discussed on chat, and we've done pretty much everything. We've reviewed the Arsenal United game. We've gone on to speak about the injury crisis, what could have been, what should be our transfer buzz. Also, we've spoken about Henry's sacking. And we've taken some questions from the live chat. We've also spoken on Bielsa. We've spoken about Emiliano Sala, and pretty much a decent episode, I can say. And episode 3 of the Sunday Morning Live is almost ending. Well, here's one last question for you. The predictions from the games, in the Premier League this game week that is coming up. Arsenal versus Cardiff.
We
Uh,
just did that. We did that too.
yeah, the predictions, like the score lines, like the score
I
line.
don't like doing that. I really don't.
and, and I don't
I,
blame you. Yeah, I don't blame you because after a certain age, I see 18-year-olds and 19-year-olds asking me prediction. But I'm like, just let me be there with a sip, with a drink, and just watch the game. Just get through it,
all right,
man. Nobody.
let me take a shot at it. Just I don't
Yeah.
want to be a party pooper. So call out the games and I'll see if I can predict the
Okay.
scoreline. Right?
So, pretty much it from the live episode. I hope you have enjoyed. We'll put the description in as soon as the episode is over, and
Yep.
make sure you post it in the group with a copy that I'm going to send you. Also, the first one being bantered out Spurs, knowing that and
We need
knowing.
to get Sourjya and me on the same on the same one.
Well, I hope, and you put that as a PS. Yeah, you put that as a PS down, so that he sees it. And he was here on the first episode. He was there for last two of them. But
Yeah,
we'll
but you know what? The thing is that when he's on with Anish, and Jaydev and all these guys, he's like very restrained and stuff. He needs to be on with me to bring the best out of him and stuff. Otherwise, otherwise it's no fun. Shuja, come on, man. I'm waiting. Where are you?
oh, how's the Josh? Hi, sir. So once again, thanking you. It's pleasure speaking to you every Sunday. And
Yep.
episode 3 is done. We are done with all the Sundays from January. So we have the next month coming up, and hope to see you for the next 4 Sundays as well. The next 4 and the next 4 and the next 4. Yeah, build
Yeah,
up.
pleasure's all mine. Pleasure's all mine. It's great
We
to
we
discuss a plethora of topics. Yeah.
and we're making a playlist. We are making playlists, by the way, on the
Okay.
Sunday morning live and all the things, so that people can come in and watch our episodes, sequence wise. So here's another great week coming up in the world of football. The Champions League's coming in the second week. So there's so much more to discuss in the next few episodes. And as and when the news comes popping out, I'll be make sure to note them down and keep ready the content for the next episode. So, guys, I hope you have enjoyed watching this video. Mr. Mehra, as always, brilliant, and we've analyzed all the teams this time, by the way. So video we put in a description, and there's been a call out for Sourjya in a banter show. So I hope you're listening to this as well. So here's your host Prasad Bhutkar signing out with Siddharth Mehra.
All right. Cheers, guys.